this monster. This one is the one that I call the invisible monster. And sadly, it's one of those that really shows up in different places at different times and leaves no trace behind. So I hope you join me tonight and we go over one case that again will take us to the wilderness. But before I do that, I want to ask you, as always, to, if you're new and enjoy this kind of content and delivery in an ASMR way, please take a second to subscribe to the channel. If you just coming back to the channel, thank you for coming back. I would love for you to leave a comment and a like. And if you don't know what to say, just say hi, leave an emoji, or simply share your opinion. I'd love to read it down below. Now, let's go to one of my, there's a darn fly that I've been trying to kill it. I'm sorry for fly lovers out there. Been trying to kill it. My dog's been trying to eat it. I cannot, so it might be in the background. But I need to focus. We're going to Three Sisters Wilderness. I'm sure that you've heard about it. It's one of those very remote places that's considered, one of the best hikes in Oregon. And it's very mysterious to me because of the many things that happen there. Now, does that stop me from wanting to go? Not really. But I'll tell you this story about an invisible monster. In the late 1980s, I'm probably gonna butcher it, but Taming, who was 63 years old, moved to the US from China. He was a very smart man who became a professor of math at the University of Oregon. He was married. His wife's name was Shiju, and of course I'm trying to pronounce to the best of my ability, so pardon if I'm not saying it right. But Taming loved to go out for daily hikes, especially with his wife. They loved to go to the Oregon's wilderness area. Despite Taming being in his 60s and his wife around that age, they were both very fit on November 4th. Well, happy birthday to me in 2007. And this was in the Three Sisters Wilderness. That was the last time that he was seen alive. So he disappeared on November 4th. On November 15th, one half of William L. Sullivan's trail book, 100 Hikes in the Oregon Cascades, was discovered in the woods. This includes the Olali Mound hike on page 154. If you're wondering where the other half of this book was, it was in his car. So they knew that it belonged to him. Other than that, there were no other evidence found or anything that belonged to him. If you don't know, the Olali Mountains lies in the Willamette National Forest and is one of many of the smaller mountains that actually make up the old Cascades. If you remember, the old Cascades were ancient volcanoes before a shift in the fault zone moved the tall and snow-covered young Cascades up to British Columbia. If you didn't, now you know. I love all this kind of thing, like the little geek in me. It's completely happy to share this with you. Now, this trip on November 4th was perfect. It was in the fall. It was sunny with beautiful blue skies. And he was wearing a white shirt and a light leather jacket because of how nice the weather was that day. Also, the kind of clothes that you can wear for a day hike. If he was planning to stay or spend the night to reach farther up the trail, he would have had to pack something for the nighttime, because despite of how beautiful it can be during the day, at night it's always cold. I tell you guys all the time. We're in a valley surrounded by mountains in southern Oregon, and it doesn't matter if it's the 4th of July. Every afternoon between 4 and 5 p.m., the sun hides behind the trees and it gets chilly, like sweater weather kind of thing. I don't think I've had more than one night where I had to just use a sheet Stephanie and Paul near their mayor. They were also on a hiking trip, and they met him near the summit, which was at a perfect time, around 1:30 p.m. According to these witnesses, he didn't spend much time at the summit. He got there probably not that out of breath as you think, and he immediately started walking down. Upon reaching the trailhead parking lot, this same couple saw the Chevy Impala park there. Now, they were very worried because, without knowing, that was because it was late at the time. In my mind kind of traveled for a second, but it was kind of late by the time they reached the parking lot. And they realized that whoever owned that car, which they assumed it was this guy that they saw at the top or at the summit, Taming, they just, they were worried because they knew that he should have been back by now. He should have been down and probably ahead of them. Unless he decided to go to the Olali Meadows on their return trip. That's, as the trail split. By the time the sun had set and it was getting dark, there was no sign of the owner of this car, and the couple still there were very worried. Now, this couple were very experienced hikers, and they knew this was a hard hike, a challenging hike. So, yes, it could take that person longer to do it, but at this time, it almost seemed like that hiker probably needed help. However, they left, hoping that the hiker was going to come back. Now, a few days later, the couple actually heard on the news that there was somebody missing that went missing the same day that they were there. His wife reported him missing on the afternoon of November 5th, after Taming didn't return home. On November 6th, his car was found near Terwilliger Hot Springs. Inside was his cell phone, water, and warmer clothes. They also found some kind of a survival kit inside. His hike was not really known by the police, but they knew that rescue focused on that area, including Olali Mountain, south of the Mackenzie Bridge, Cougar Reservoir, and the Three Sisters Wilderness area. This was a huge search party. More than 60 mountain rescuers were involved. Several different offices were involved, like Eugene Police, Portland, Corvallis, Lincoln, Lynn, and Lincoln counties. They had a Black Hawk helicopter. I mean, they believed, or at least park rangers believed, that Taming probably took the wrong trail at the junction and ended up at Olali Meadows rather than the parking lot where his car was. But he still would have to notice the difference in the trail and that there was no meadow at the top. He would have plenty of time. He would have had plenty of time to turn around after a mile of walking to the meadows. It was thought that his tracks were near Bear Flat on the Olali Meadows trail, but the dogs lost track at that point. As you can imagine, the weather got really bad in the following weeks. The temperatures dropped and rain and snow started falling. He didn't have any kind of winter clothing that day, and the chances of him surviving the storms, it was very unlikely. According to the sheriff who was in charge, he believed that the worst enemy of, a missing hiker right now would be the bad weather. Because on November 8th, only 4 days later, temperatures in the search area dropped below freezing overnight. And it was really mild, the days before. So wearing a light jacket wouldn't be enough to survive the night. Even though he was a very experienced hiker, but if I can add something, there is no matter how experienced you are, if you're not ready for the hike, nature is not really forgiving. So I feel like he was really not set up for what he was going to encounter that day. It was reported that the snow level would drop below the 4,700 foot level overnight because of rain and fog on November 10th. I mean, they were going to have some accumulation, but in some areas that were probably higher than that point. So friends and volunteers continued to search on Monday, November the 12th. Despite the fact that the official search was called off due to bad dozens of volunteers. Over 5,000 man-hours of searching were used to cover between 50 and 100 square miles of thick, thick, thick forest. As you remember, they found Sullivan's trail book on page 157, including the Olali Mount hike on page 154. That was found on November 15th. If he had a map with him, how did he get lost? That was a big question the police had. On the mountain south side, the trail book was found in a rugged area of the French Peat Creek drainage. They believed that he followed the trail down to Bear Flat, then headed down to French Peat Creek, where there was no more trail. This was because there was a lot of debris on the trail, like fallen trees, rocks, and steep terrain. This hike, French Peat Creek, is extremely steep and hazardous, full of foliage and boulders. It's not an easy trail. So if he was still alive at this point, he would have either taken the French Peat Creek trail back to Bad Saddle or down to Off Their Hide Road 19. Now, for somebody that doesn't know the area, this is a bunch of names and different trail names that mean nothing to you. But if you take a second and you look in the map, you can see how all these trails are connected. And it's very well known, or something very popular, to kind of jump, go from one hike to another, or start at one point but end in a completely different one. Some people leave their cars in the ending point because they're tired and they don't want to go find their cars at another, parking lot. But sometimes in other trails I've done, I remember there was this one in Utah. There were 2 different parking lots about half a mile from each other. And if you chose the second trail, you would have to go through another, the north side of the mountain. And then you come all around it and you end up in that other parking lot. So you only have to hike half a mile. So that made sense in my head when I did it, but this distance between different trailheads, to call them something, it is so extreme, and it takes you to completely opposite directions, and if anything, being farther away from where you have your car parked or where he had his car parked. It is also very challenging, as I mentioned before, the trail that police thought he took to come back. Kind of pick the other trail in the fork and not the same one to come back to the car. You can go through a thick forested area, then all of a sudden you're climbing a steep rocky mountain, and then once again was blocked. I mean, sadly for the authorities, they have way too many options of what could have happened. But later on, the following year, 45 volunteers searched for the remains. They spent 400 hours but couldn't find any trace of his body. His wife just couldn't bear the idea that she had no remains. That she couldn't bury her own husband. This was such a tragedy for this family. And also a warning for those of you or those of us who sometimes are not as prepared as we think we are. Sometimes a beautiful sunny day and a good map seems like a good idea until you are disoriented and you take the wrong turn. Then the weather turns bad, and then you're not ready for what is coming. The saddest part is that even when there is some kind of foul play in the wilderness, chances are it will not be solved. Sometimes they're following a map in their heads of what, they should be according to witnesses or, putting together a timeline. But in my experience in this kind of cases, I'm trying to think of her name. There was this girl that she was kidnapped in Washington State. Oh my goodness, they moved from Tennessee, the mom and 2 kids. She was taken and her body ended up in a wilderness area when the police focused all their attention to the specific area near the house, the neighborhood, and the wilderness around it. All I'm trying to say is that given the idea that this happened in the wilderness, chances are we don't know what could have happened to him. We don't know if he just died to hypothermia, or if something or someone made him disappear. I tend to believe that if somebody was lost or thinking of hypothermia as a possibility, that they would like to stay in the trail, and if they die, they are going to be somewhat near a trail. Even if predators mess with their bodies, they typically eat it where it died or where it is. Typically. So, to me, when they say that he could have just died of hypothermia, it's a strong possibility. He made a mistake. He took the wrong turn. He had no equipment with him. But I just cannot believe that an experienced hiker would get off the trail. I just can't. I've been in many trails here in Oregon, most of them, especially in the mountains, they have little caves around. So I guess he could have gone into a cave to try to escape that, that humidity in the air if it was getting cold and he was starting to feel wet, or I guess he could have gone into one of those caves. But I'm sure that as I thought of that, I'm sure the rescue team probably thought about that too. Now, there was another guy that disappeared from that same hike, and his name was Jake Dutton. Dutton. Every time I see that last name, it reminds me of Yellowstone. Unrelated though. Jake, disappeared from the same area 5 years later. He was hiking by himself, and again, kind of under suspicious circumstances. It was an experienced hiker. He knew what he was doing. He had a map. He was ready, yet he disappeared and was never found. Now I have to say that a lot of people here in Oregon, like a lot of people believe in Bigfoot, and I'm not saying he's not real or it's not real. But, and I do believe that there is a lot of different species of animals and, creatures that we may not know about them, especially in the ocean. But I guess it could be on Earth too, or on land, I should say, inland. But it's, I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced of that. I don't say it's not possible. No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that a lot of people believe that this could have been something like that happened to this guy. Well, both of them. Others believe in aliens, abductions, and others believe in that it was probably an animal. But animals are not trying to hide, or they're not scared of people, of what their justice can do. So they typically don't have the evidence. And it does take a while to eat an entire body. So I don't think it was an animal. So again, we are left with an invisible monster. A monster we cannot touch, we cannot see, but that many people are afraid of. As always, when I share these cases, it's never with the idea to instill fear in you and avoid going to hikes. I go to hike every single day with my husband. We have a few trails around where we live, and they're all in the thickest of the forest areas. I want to do a little video and share it with you guys, because I think you just have to see it to believe how beautiful these hikes are. They're not marked on any Google Maps or any website. They're really hidden jewels of the community of where we live. And some people from town know about those hikes and enjoy it too. But it's really, you can enjoy solitude, thick forest, inclines, and end up in the river. is just beautiful. So I don't mean to scare you with all this. I believe that we all have due date in this world, and for some people it's more tragic than for others. But I don't think that hiding from being in nature it's gonna keep you any more safe, and that's my 2 cents. And you are 100%, in the right to disagree with me, and that's okay too. So thank you so much for